Coming up today on LMM, the 48 gets wet, gets picked up and arrives at the site of the greatest gathering. Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM. Today I'm taking this thing off to Derby to be part of the greatest gathering. But before we could do that, firstly we needed to shunt it here, which has been done by the lovely people at the Whitwell Reef Railway, and secondly we realised that there were a lot of cosmetic outstanding jobs and touch-ups that we needed to do. The first amongst these was to give the nameplates a well overdue polish and get them back to being all nice and shiny, and it was quite the difference you could see halfway through the process, and it dawned on me the last time we'd actually polished them was when John did it on New Year's Day, so this is definitely very overdue. And then we broke out the pressure washer and gave the thing a once over to get rid of all the dust, grime and cobwebs, although some people were being less than helpful with it.
You know my nameplate that I'm still working on?
Oh, the moist one?
Yeah.
Yes, but look how beautifully the water is beaded.
It does look really nice, doesn't it? Oh.
And as a result of that, the pressure washer had to be deployed inside the cab to get rid of all of the grime and dirt that had accumulated there.
And what product are you using today, sir?
I am using Citra Auto Bright Direct quality car products, quality guaranteed.
Oh.
Citrus Wash for lemony fresh rustons. It is going to need a hose off. It's left.
Yes, it's going to.
But that's okay. We get the worst of it.
I think we'll give it a wash, give it a wipe down, then we'll put the shampoo on it, and then we'll hand wash it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then it was all hands on deck to rub it down with the microfibers before lathering it back up with a coat of shampoo. And once we'd done all of that and wiped that dry, we could move it over the pit ready for the next stage. And that was to do a bit of painting, and I was starting off with giving the buffers a touch-up. By using the Locomotive, unfortunately, the paint wears from the buffers, and I wanted this to look as smart as it possibly could going to the greatest gathering. Although, not everybody got the memo that I was painting the buffers.
You painted the whole thing?
You just put a hand on the buffer?
Just possibly just touch up about there.
Is this because somebody's just put their hand on it?
No.
No.
Use that red bit. You just that there. I reckon you've got over the red bit.
And once I'd gone over the buffers a second time, it was time to head down into the pit to give the guard irons a new coat of paint. And also to actually finish painting them, because when they were fitted about a year ago, I hadn't actually painted the back of them, so this was still in Rust-Oleum, and underneath was still bare metal, so this was a long overdue thing to get completed.
Yeah, look at that.
It does make a big difference, doesn't it?
So much better. I mean, it's actually done.
By now, I was getting a little bit carried away with the black paint and decided that the running boards needed a tart-up to restore them to being nice, black and shiny. And from there, I thought, well, the steps, they could do with a touch-up as well. Although this proved to be a little bit of a problem because Nick was inside the cab, rubbing it down, ready to repaint that. The best way to deal with this problem was to hand him a paintbrush and get him to start painting. And at this point, I must do a massive shout out to our friends over at Paintman Paints who sent us the paint for the interior of the Ruston. And this stuff has gone on beautifully and made such a difference. We didn't do a good job of rubbing it down, that's something we'll do in the future, but it just looks so much better in this proper BR custard colour.
It's amazing the difference.
So go check out their website in the video description and see their full range of Heritage Railway colours. And even I got involved in actually doing some work, painting the roof of the cab of the Ruston. Soon we'd achieved all we were going to, and it was time to move the thing over to the loading bay, ready for the final task to be undertaken. And that was drilling into the back of the cab so it could have a rear lamp bracket. This was something that I'd wanted to happen for ages. And then the lorry appeared. We were going to be using my friends over at SC Fabrications, who have moved both this Ruston before and 303 when it came to the railway, so they're old hats at picking up locomotives. Their first stage was to deploy the outriggers to make a stable base. I always love watching these telescopic legs deploy. It's something that looks so very Thunderbird-ish. And once the outriggers were deployed, they could take the weight off the wheels of the lorry, ensuring that they had both a stable and a level base in order to lift my Ruston. With that all set up, it was time to unfurl the crane, which I always find amazing the way it undoes itself. And then they could hook on the lifting chain and lift it off the bed of the lorry. This time, to prevent the strops from squeezing my Ruston, we were going to be employing the use of a spreader, and once the shackle was attached to that, we could connect the chains and lift that high off the bed, ready for the strops, which were the things which would actually physically be lifting the Ruston to be attached to that. And with everything connected up, all that remained was to swing the contraption over the top of my little Ruston 48. And I must admit, when you see it like this, it doesn't look very substantial, all of this lifting gear to be picking up a 7.5 ton locomotive. But as we've done it before, I know that it works. The operator hooked the strops around the buffer beams and then took the strain, and we were ready for takeoff.
It's always unnatural. It's not meant to be in the air. No, not meant to fly.
This is about as close as you can get to a real-life hand of God on your 1-to-1 scale model railway. I've also got to commend the speed and efficiency of SC Fabrications. From the lorry turning up to this moment here where the wheels touched down onto the bed took less than 20 minutes. Absolutely fantastic. Having uncoupled these strops from the buffers and moved the apparatus out of the way, it was time to chain down the Ruston so it couldn't go anywhere on the bed, which is generally ill-advised when you're trying to move a locomotive via the road. Now, we've done this several times before, and I know they are heavy-duty, unyielding chains, but I still get a sense of anxiety seeing my loco perched all the way up there on the bed. At least when we moved the 165, that was on a low loader, so it felt a lot closer to the ground rather than being perched up there on the bed of the truck. Once it was all tied down, it was time to compress the spreader and put it away on the back of the bed. And then we could start packing up and getting the truck ready to hit the road. And I remain so impressed in the way that the jib folds itself up to take up such a small amount of space, contorting itself into something a fraction of its expanded size. And then finally, all that remained was to retract the outriggers. And once the legs had somersaulted themselves back into stowage, it was time for us to leave and head towards Derby. I decided to mount a GoPro in the cab of the Ruston. It will give a view of what it would have been like should somebody have stowed away inside the cab. And having swung around, we were off. So here we go, off in hot pursuit of my locomotive on the back of a lorry. Now I can see where it's been along here because I can see all of the branches that it's taken down as it's been going along. There's lots of leaves from the overhanging trees. Now this is becoming a fairly irregular occurrence. In fact, I would argue a significantly more regular occurrence than for most locomotive owners, because most of the time, well, they don't move around quite this much unless, you know, they're a big famous thing, which I suppose to a degree mine is, but they don't move. It's another bit of greenery that's come off it. And also they generally don't go on the back of a high hab. That's the kind of the key point here. So we're going to trundle along and follow a lorry. And then the best thing about all of this is once it actually gets to Derby, I haven't got a clue what happens there.
not the foggiest. As they've not told me anything yet, so I... Ah! There she goes! Every time I see it on the back of a trailer or on the back of a lorry, it's just such a weird thing to behold. You know, that sight of a... I couldn't see the lorry, I could just see a Ruston trundling through a field.
Following that, I quickly caught up with the lorry so I could sit behind it and admire the might that is my Ruston 48. Now, although I have done this before, it's still something very strange to see a little Ruston 48 perched atop of a lorry, making its way through the countryside, travelling much faster than it ever could by rail. And at this point, I'm going to take the opportunity to say a massive great thank you to Edward for being a super friend. When the opportunity came up to take this to the Greatest Gathering, I had to fund the transport. And when I was going, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this, he stepped up and offered to pay for this thing to go and take part. So for all of you who get to see it over the weekend when it's at the Greatest Gathering, I want you to bear that in mind and say a big thank you to Edward for making it possible, because really, I don't know how I would have done it without his help. So massive great thank you, buddy. Thank you for making something absolutely incredible happen.
I've got to admit though, it is slightly ironic, isn't it? Taking a locomotive to celebrate Rail 200, to celebrate the Greatest Gathering, the largest gathering of locomotives from the country, and it's going by road. Not just because the railway it's based at is not rail connected, it can't get to the main line, but even if it could, I mean, that's never going on the main line, is it? It's just not going to happen. But there's definitely a real sense of irony there. Biggest event of railway vehicles. How's it getting there? Via the road. Which I suppose actually goes a long way to show how far the railways have fallen. Somewhere in that 200 years, the railways were the absolute pinnacle of everything. Like, the railways were the very top. They were everything. They were the way the whole country worked, the way that everything moved. They were the background of the country, and now I'm taking my locomotive on a lorry. I keep having this proper fear when it comes to a junction and it's gone ahead of me, that if my nav and their nav are the same thing, because I'm following a car nav and they're obviously on a lorry nav. And so every time it goes, I'm like... And then you get this glorious feeling when you realise, ah yes, there it is. Look at it in all its glory. Silly thing.
The fear was real because obviously in order to get this footage, I had to keep leapfrogging the lorry. So after the thing had gone past, it was hop back in the Mini, overtake and get ready for another shot. And this had all worked rather well.
And then we have our minutes of absolute despair when we see that he's just indicated to gone that way. That's upsetting. Where's he gone? Why have I gone this way? I thought we were doing this the whole way there, but there we go. Oh, I see, I'm on a different route now. So I'm going, Well, at least that means I'll get to the city centre first. Well, city centre to the works first. Hopefully.
I wound my way through the back streets of Derby until I arrived at the site of the Greatest Gathering, Alstom's Litchurch Lane Works. And I couldn't resist having a drive around and seeing what else had arrived for the Greatest Gathering. There was a 47 there, the 58 which I'd never seen before, the Class 83 and the Class 85, both of which I'd not seen before. So already, this was quite exciting for me.
So far it's good. I got here before my loco.
Although, only just. Having been to reception and security, we parked up and waited for a member of the movements team to come and collect us to show us where we needed to offload. And it was great to be able to marvel at the 48 inside the grounds of this historic site. Soon enough, a gentleman from the movements team appeared and directed us into the site, so I hopped up into the cab of the lorry. It is a massive, great complex, and I can't wait to see it filled with locomotives for the single greatest gathering of locomotives in the UK's history. The whole place is full of heritage and railways. And then we arrived where we were going, and we were told to offload by the smallest standard gauge loco, the motor rail.
Yeah, wait here. That's some battery project.
This is a relatively new locomotive, despite being built originally in 1957. 08308 has been heavily rebuilt to be a battery locomotive for the future. Whilst I've been ogling the 08, the chap from SC Fabrications had started deploying the outriggers and stabilising the lorry, ready to lift my Ruston off the bed. And with all 4 outriggers deployed, it was time to release the chains. Then he could unfurl the crane and attach the lifting chains to the hook. Then, as before, he could deploy the spreader and get out the lifting strops and attach those, ready to manoeuvre the whole apparatus above the Ruston, ready for the lift. Now, ironically, I have now purchased the lifting eyes for this that go in the holes in the side of the frame. I've just not installed them yet. So maybe next time we do this, we can lift it via the way it's meant to be lifted, rather than putting straps around the buffer shanks. But with that said and done, it was time for the locomotive to head skywards once again, and it still fills me with a sense of unease seeing the thing floating in the sky like that, particularly when you consider there are 7 tons hanging just in the ether. Locomotives are very much not meant to fly. At this point, I had to chat with the member of the movement team to ask which way round they wanted the locomotive to face, and his response was, we don't really care, probably the way it's facing now. So that was the decision-making process to have the Ruston facing this direction. And with that, the operator slowly began to offer it up towards the awaiting steel. Ever so carefully and gingerly, the locomotive was lined up above the steel and then carefully dropped down until touchdown. The wheels touched the steel, and as the rear wheels touched down, then the locomotive springs took the weight once again. Then all the operator had to do was disconnect the strops from the locomotive and then lift the whole apparatus clear, leaving the 48 sat on the rails at the works at Derby. This was hugely exciting. I think it was now it actually hit me. We'd done it. The locomotive had actually arrived and would be part of the greatest gathering. So all that remained was for the operator to pack everything up and then get the crane to furl itself back up into this weird contorted space-saving shape, which I still can't quite believe it manages to do.
So here it is. It's made it. So William is here at the greatest gathering. A little bit early because we're like several weeks away, but it's here. It is actually on site. It's arrived. It's safe, and now I've got to do the hardest thing and leave it here, which feels disgusting. I haven't really left my loco anywhere, you know, like this ever. So yeah, but exciting to have it here for sure. I mean, I can't wait to come back and see it as part of the whole thing. Of course, the big question is, will it still be here? Will it? This might not be its final position. We really don't know. The guy was like, oh, just buy it with the other small one. So it's been put with the other small one.
With the loco safely down on the rails, all that remained was to stow the outriggers, and then the SC Fabrications truck could be on its way back home. And having hopped up into the cab alongside the driver, we departed, leaving the little 48 behind, which really felt quite odd, leaving it alone in this huge yard. And to think the next time I visit, this whole space will be filled with all kinds of locomotives. And trying to visualise that right now was quite difficult, as it's all empty. As we left, I came across a couple more locomotives that will be taking part. There's a pair of Class 50s up here. And then, with that, we made our way to the exit.
Well, having been dropped off back at the car, that's the lorry disappeared.
But before I could get back to my car to depart, I was on site to see the newest locomotive that will be on display at the Greatest Gathering appear. On the back of the Allilee's low loader was the 3MT. This is a brand new standard tank being built to fill the gaps in the ranks of steam locomotives. We've got plenty of 2MTs and plenty of 4MTs, but there are no surviving 3MTs. This is a yet unfinished locomotive. You can see that one side has a tank, the other doesn't, and as yet it has no motion. But this isn't that far away from entering operational service, and it's the first time that I've seen it looking this complete. And it shows what a huge variety of locomotives there are going to be at this event, from steam to full-size mainline diesels and electrics to tiny little Ruston 48s, and I am so excited to be part of this. As that disappeared onto the site to be offloaded, I headed back to the car and headed off-site.
So there we go, that is Alstom's Works. I mean, it is an amazing place to just be able to go and look around. Like, the Greatest Gathering is going to be incredible just to be able to go onto this site and look around and just revel in all of this history. And with so many locomotives going, there's over 100 locomotives going to be in attendance, and of course, my own Sir William McAlpine. It's going to be there. It is there. It is a confirmed locomotive for the event because it is physically there, which is absolutely incredible. I have been really looking forward to this, and actually being able to drop it off, meet some of the guys behind it and have a chat has been fantastic. They're all super guys, all really enthusiastic about this and about this whole event and how good it's going to be, with a silly amount of people. So I look forward to seeing you guys at the event. I should, all being well, be there on Saturday and Sunday. So that's going to be awesome, and I can't wait. I genuinely cannot wait. So I've now got a 3-hour drive home. So I'm going to get on with that, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing a couple of little sneak preview of the day and seeing the 48 transported across the country. And with that, I'll see you all next time. If you have enjoyed this, how about clicking somewhere over there for the announcement when I said it was going to go to the Greatest Gathering, or down there for, I don't know, something else with the 48. Perhaps that's what we did with it on New Year's Day, because that was a good bash. And, of course, I'll see you next time. Ta-da!